There's four things that are going to change the way we all do business. It's
right.
AI, artificial intelligence, AR, augmented reality,
Okay.
VR, virtual reality, and IoT, Internet of Things.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to No Limits with Kristen Andre. We are here today with Lon Safko, who is an innovator, an inventor, best-selling author, speaker. I could go on, but I think that'd probably take up the entire time we have. So I am super excited to have you. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, this is great. I'm excited as well.
Yeah, because I was reading your bio, and I mean, holy cow! Pulitzer Prize nominee. You've been #1 bestseller on Amazon. I think you've got books on social media in a zillion languages. You're in the Smithsonian. You're all this stuff. I mean, so give us the highlights. You've done so much in your career. So tell us give us some background on you. How did you get into this innovation space, I guess?
Yeah, I've always loved innovation, always creative. Off camera, we were talking about Mensa, and
Yep.
so we're always challenged with things around us. So ever since I was a kid, I was always challenged and inventing things and thinking of new ways of looking at stuff. But then as I become an early adult, I really got into things like computers. And it turns out I taught the first computer to speak. I had no idea I was the first person to do that. The first one to create a chat bot.
Yeah, because you discovered or came up with the voice recognition thing, right?
I did. Eventually, the work that I did became Drag and Dictate. And then now, even today, it's Siri.
How about that?
Yeah.
That's insane. Like I sit there and thinking, I'm like, sometimes I get creative with, I don't know what I'm going to have for dinner, but these are major, major inventions. I mean, did you naturally was it a curiosity you had that got you doing that?
Yeah, it really was. When computers first came out, I bought the first little dinky computers that really worked very badly. And I thought, well, what if I could teach it to talk to me?
Okay.
And nobody's ever done that. And I worked on it and I figured it out. And then I said, what if I could teach it to listen? And then I said, what if I can give it some artificial intelligence and teach it to communicate with me? And I did. And then that led to the first computer to save a human life.
How about that? Now tell me about that, because I've read that in your bio. So, I mean, having invented anything is fantastic, whether you're young, older, what have you. Any invention I just always admire. But a computer that can save a human life, that's major. So tell me more about that, because I wasn't as familiar with that piece of your work.
Yeah, that was a major piece of my life too, and most a big section of my career. When I developed this computer, believe it or not, I mean, just by talking to it, it was voice recognition. It was voice recognition, so I didn't have to use my arms. I could just talk to the computer. And somebody said to me, "Did you ever realize that there's over 60 million severely disabled people in America that can't turn on a light or change a channel or lock a door?"
Right.
I said, "Oh my gosh, I never thought about it." So I started building this computer, and there was a gentleman in Yakima, Washington, who fell down a flight of stairs, broke his neck, became a quadriplegic. And I set him up with this computer, and he could call his wife. He could hold a job again. He could control his television. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. And within a few months, he got out of the rehab and actually was holding a job in Seattle. And all he wanted to do was die.
Wow.
After the accident.
Yeah. Because was it one of the ones with the eye? Because I had the opportunity for a number of years to volunteer at my church in the special needs ministry and that room, and that was the kids I work with, and we had a couple that had the computer tablets where the eye movements, it would track it, and they could have talk boards, if you will, that type of thing.
Yeah. One of the very first talk boards I invented.
Very cool. Man.
Yeah, it was so amazing, because once I started working with disabled, I mean, I was so emotionally motivated to help people. And then there was all these other kind of spin-offs. I mean, if you couldn't speak, well, I've got something to speak for you. If you can't control a keyboard, well, I've got something to do that. And that's how I got the 18 inventions in the Smithsonian Institution.
So, and in that, well, first and foremost, congratulations, because the Smithsonian is it's phenomenal. I mean, it's a great, you go and you're just in awe of everything. So to have 18 inventions and what'd you say, 30,000 papers there?
30,000 of my professional papers.
I don't even know if I've written 30,000 papers in my life, but that's phenomenal. So, but aside from that, like, tell me a little bit about, like, when you saw your invention, helping somebody. So when you saw this patient who had fallen down the stairs what does that do as an inventor? Because I know there's the science behind it, but there's got to be that emotional component that you're like.
There really was. That's what motivated me, watching this person. When I introduced him to the computer, he turned his head, and all he kept saying is, "I want to die. I want to die."
Oh.
He didn't think that there was any hope for his life, but I taught him anyway. And then a month later, the nurse told me to come to the hospital quickly. So I did, and I actually got a speeding ticket.
Oh, goodness. Well, yeah, you're thinking something's wrong.
I walked into his room, and his bed was empty. The only time a quadriplegic's bed is empty is when they're in the basement.
Yeah.
And I started to cry.
Yeah.
And I turned around and walked out of the room, and he was behind the door in a wheelchair, and he reached out his atrophied hand to shake my hand to thank me for saving his life.
How cool was that? I would have been like a blubbery. I cry at everything. I'm like, Miss Hallmark movie crying at everything. But I would have been. I think I would have been in a hole just inventing everything after that point. So when you do that and you get that, that's a bigger reward than anything monetary to me.
Honestly, and that was toughest times of my life as well.
Yeah.
Trying to raise money and grow the company and fight off investors and hostile takeovers.
Yeah.
And bill collectors and but that's part of it.
But you think about that because, I'll hear somebody that, as I read through your bio and I'm like, man, he invented AI or, really big in AI, voice recognition, all of this type of stuff that help people like quadriplegics and people that don't have hand movements. It's phenomenal. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is just some genius in a lab that's got millions of dollars just being thrown at him to invent it. But that wasn't your story.
No, that wasn't the story at all. I was actually, when I built my first company, the disabled computer system, I built it out of a garage with absolutely no money in my pocket at all. I was barely making my rent at the time.
It's like you and Steve Jobs. Everybody start. All right, so everybody listening that wants to start a major revolution, you got to start in the garage.
Oh, if it wasn't for garages, the U.S. wouldn't have any Fortune 500 companies.
Right. I believe you. I believe you. All right, so you started in the garage. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how did you fund it?
Build one, sell one. Build one, sell one. Build one, sell two. It was just step by step. Raise a little money, borrow a little money, get some credit cards, and then you start to grow. And then, thank goodness, we got to a point where we had some critical mass, where the company was sustaining itself at a very small level. And then at that point, we took in venture capital, and that was the biggest mistake that I've ever made in my career.
Really? Okay, because I know the VC money and angel investors and everything right now is just huge. I'm in Atlanta. There's a lot of tech going on here in Atlanta. There's tons of investors and VC firms here wanting to throw money at different things. And most inventors, that's what I hear they're craving. So tell me about that, because usually that's what they want. So why is that scary? What's scary about the VC money?
Well, we're all craving it because we know that that's what we need to stay alive. I mean, we as an entrepreneur, we believe in our vision more than anybody. And it's our job to infect everybody with that enthusiasm. But we all know that when you go home, you've got the bills and you've got family and you've got a wife looking at you for a paycheck, and there just isn't any. Yeah. So venture capital is really the only way you can sometimes start a company, sustain it in early stages, but also get it to grow.
Yep.
So I was at the stage I needed to grow it. The problem is, be realistic. Venture capital is high risk, high gain. So they're taking a big risk because 9 out of 10 of my companies failed, even after I've had successes. There's no guarantees. Wow. So really the bottom line for an investor is they're not going to give you their money unless they're going to be able to take control. And as soon as you get their money, they take control, and it's now their company and not yours. And if they're greedy enough, they will completely push you and the other shareholders out.
Which is tough as an inventor. I mean, part of me, the sassy little part of me would want to say, well, fine, see if you can do it yourself. Because, I would guess you're the inventor. They need you. They need your human capital, your brain.
You would think, but as soon as they get to a certain point where they think that they have all of the intellectual property, especially because most intellectual property is done through the company, then they can hire people to fill in whatever you were providing.
Gaps.
So one of the tricks that I did is I always put my intellectual property, patents, copyrights, whatever, in my own personal name and then leased them to my company for $1 a year, assuming that the company never goes into financial difficulty. And then that voids the contract. They took over my company, and it wasn't until after they took it over and nearly bankrupted that they realized The company didn't own the
They didn't
intellectual
own the
property. I
property.
did.
That was pretty smart.
Well, then
it's
they
all
came
those
after
Mensa
my
years
wife.
paying off for you.
But they came after my wife and I with hell's fury.
Wow, how about that?
Yeah.
So talk to me about that a little bit, because that's the stories we don't hear. It's like, you get there and you've got all this success. Like I mentioned, reading your accomplishments, it's phenomenal. But these are the things nobody talks about. No one's like, you know what? Some years are just going to stink, and they're going to be people who aren't nice.
Yeah, worse than you can honestly imagine. And that's why I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit ahead of time, because I'm telling you things that nobody talks about.
Yeah.
I want everybody to believe that it was a walk in the park.
Yep.
And I said earlier, overnight success is amazing, but the horrible part is the decades that it takes to get that.
It does.
And all the struggles.
Yeah.
Everything was a struggle. And working with venture capital was one of the worst, because they wanted to own the intellectual property. After years of court battles, the only recourse I had, because they ran me broke at that point, is you're going to love this, because it was the disabled, I took all my intellectual property and I made it public domain. I gave it away.
Good for you.
They couldn't benefit. I couldn't benefit, but the disabled was able to benefit. That's why you see all my technology all over the place.
But I think that's awesome, because that in the end benefits everybody.
That was the right thing to do.
And granted, businesses and corporations and venture capitalists they're in business to make money. I like making money. I'm sure you like making. I mean, all of us like making money. But at the same time, it's tough when kind of the greed gets in there a little bit, and people, because I feel like sometimes there's a tipping point where we've gotten away from doing the right thing at the expense of making money, and that's not fun. So
no, it's not fun. And unfortunately, a lot of VC people, that's how they made their money. Because if you're out there and you're being nice and you're following all the rules, it's even more difficult to make money. So they always have that competitive edge. They're just a little bit tougher than the rest of us.
They're tough little cookies. Well, for the rest of us, though, and you still accomplished a ton with all the challenges. So, with that, if somebody's listening and they're like, man, I've got these inventions and I'm right at that stage. No, I think sharing your story and understanding there's going to be some tough times you're going through. All of us have them. Yeah. So was it worth it?
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Okay, good. Well, and that's what I want to make sure is people we just got to get through the tough years, and then all the good stuff that you wanted, it's waiting for you.
Right. And then you get it, then you hit more tough years.
Yeah. It's always like that cycle. So you just think you're there, and then somebody else comes through.
My wife and I have a joke. We always say, when things are looking okay, we always say, click, 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 click. And it's a reminder of a roller coaster. You're going up that hill and everything's looking good. But that clicking is going to stop here soon, and you're going to go plummeting to the earth.
Yeah, now you're scaring me with the roller coaster.
It's just that exciting. The highs are higher than anything you've ever experienced, and the lows are lower than anything you've ever experienced.
But it sounds like you wouldn't trade it for anything.
No. And I found a great spouse to support me. That's 100% of it. If she couldn't take the highs and lows along with me and support me when I wasn't enthusiastic, I wouldn't have success. That's really
I feel like everybody needs that. You need that person, whether it's a spouse, significant other, friend, child, parent, whatever. You need that person that's going to, I always tell people with my coaching clients, I tell them, you need somebody that's kind of going to pat you on the back when you're doing good, but that's also going to dust you off and kind of shove you right back out there when you need it. Because that's
what she says. She kicks me back into play.
Exactly. But if not, sometimes it's after you've been kicked in the gut a couple times, it's hard to get right back out there.
It's really hard. Yeah. When I lost that company, I was devastated for almost a year. Honest to goodness, because I shared something also recently with you. It was like losing a child when I lost my company. Yeah. I conceived it. I gave birth to it. I fed it. I did without so that it could have my resources.
Yeah.
I grew it.
Yeah.
And then someone took it and killed it.
Yeah. It's just so sad. So, I love and respect the fact that you, after all that, you're like, that's okay. No, I'm down, but I'm not out. You just got to get back up one more time than you got knocked down. So
that's business. That's the way it works. Yeah, and the more I do it, the more I realize how difficult the rules are, but the better I get at playing the game.
Yep, that's true. All right. Well, I love it. I love the fact you're still in the game. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk with Lon about kind of what's next on the horizon for him, and how do you keep going and keep the motivation up after all these challenges and setbacks. We'll be back in just a minute. Hey everyone, it's Kristen. Be sure and visit my website at www.andregroup.com. That's www.andree.group.com. And while you're there, be sure to download my white paper, Top 10 Reasons Your Business Isn't Growing Fast Enough. Now get out there and create your no limits moment. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to No Limits with Kristen Andre. We are here with Lon Safko, who, before the break, we were talking about all your inventions and everything. I'm telling you, we need to just post this bio. Y'all got to go to Google or something because it's crazy. But, I'm curious, what got you, where this innovative brain come from? Like, why innovation? Why trying to find new stuff or develop new stuff?
Well, when I was 5, I fell backwards down a flight of concrete stairs.
Are you serious?
No. Yeah, I really did. I don't know. That could have been it. I don't know.
I busted my head when I was little, and I didn't invent anything. So,
see, the funny thing is that ever since I was really, really young, 3 and 4, my grandmother said that I was building things and making things out of paper and tape and stuff in the garage, and actually making things that made sense to her, not like a child.
Okay.
So that never went away. That curiosity never went away. And then in my teens, I became even more curious about how to put things together. In my early 20s, I bought the first computer because I knew it had so many capabilities and nobody was doing anything with it. So I started teaching it all kinds of crazy stuff. And then that curiosity actually continued throughout my whole life. The book, The Social Media Bible, has nothing to really do with technology. It's writing a 850-page book.
Yeah.
But it's also creative. It's also part of that innovative process. How do I deliver a product, a book, unlike anything else that's on the market? And I did, and it hit number 1 on Amazon, and it sold over $2 million in copies.
I know,
because of the content, but also because of the format.
Okay, so when you're with the innovation, is it just, does something pop in your head and you say, I want to try this, or is it more of a problem that you're trying to solve?
It could be both.
Okay.
And when I try to teach innovation, I do keynotes and training on innovation on the executive level. And one of the things that I say is that not all innovation has to be wrapped around a problem.
Okay.
For example, Steve Jobs, when he invented the iPod, not the first MP3 player, I had a Philips MP3 player years before he invented the iPod. That wasn't to solve a problem because nobody knew what an MP3 was. So it wasn't a problem. But he created an industry, which eventually led into the famous iPhone today.
Which I spend a lot of money on. He has gotten a lot of my money.
It's amazing, absolutely amazing that the way that technology actually grew. So it's not necessarily about a problem. It's about, I'll give you a really weird example. David Letterman was making a joke when this is back in 1999 when the Titanic, the movie was really being hyped, and everything was Titanic. Also, it was the first time people heard about El Nino, the cycles of rain and dry. So he's in his monologue and he says, well, we finally found out today what actually sank the Titanic. It was El Nino. And of course, everybody laughed, how could a rainstorm? And then I thought for a second, wait a minute. Those are two completely random things, which made it funny. I did some research, and guess what? In 1915, we had an El Nino. It was the warmest spring in over 50 years, which caused the icebergs to snap off and float down into the boat channel. So the captain had no idea that there would be that much ice in his entire career. He had never lived long enough to see it. So I published a paper that El Nino actually did sink the Titanic.
So, all right. That's interesting because that's curiosity to me.
This.
Well, that's kind of neat though, because to me that's the epitome of curiosity. Because I would have heard the joke with Letterman, like, that's funny, but you're like, wait a minute, there could be some truth to this. Let me go research it, and that's just funny. Shows. That example is an innovator brain to me, because the rest of us would have just laughed and went on with our day. So,
right.
All right.
My wife says, "What goes on inside your head?"
I know it's like that head. What's going? You just wanted just a couple little minute glimpse in there. So, all right, with that, as you're thinking through innovation and, obviously it's a natural thing for you. You're just naturally curious. I think the curiosity is it. So what's next with, all this AI and, we're hearing so much about artificial intelligence, all these changes, just the computers, the phones, everything now versus even 10 years ago. So what do you think's next?
Well, the reason I've always kind of loved technology is because that seems to be, at least in my career lifetime, that's what changes the most.
Yep.
Everything from the very first computers to where we are today. So I like to stay in that space because there's so much I can put together, so much new stuff I can see. So yeah, let me tell you, there's 4 things that are going to change the way we all do business. It's AI, artificial intelligence, AR, augmented reality, VR, virtual reality, and IoT, Internet of Things. Those 4 things are going to change our lives the way social media and the computer and the iPhone has in the past.
All right. So what's all the first 3 I've seen and read a lot on IoT, though I'm not as familiar with that. So
IoT
Internet
is called, it stands for Internet of Things. What's happening is everything is getting a chip and Wi-Fi connected and smart. So like Ring, the doorbell, that's connected to the internet. Who would ever think that a doorbell would be connected to the internet that you can then interface through an iPhone?
Right.
But you can talk to people from across the world at your front door, and they can talk to you and you can see them. Amazon has got a partnership now where Ring will open up the door, allow Amazon to put the package inside and close the door so that nobody can steal it off your porch.
I've heard about that. That freaks me out. I don't know that I want the Amazon guy in my house. Just because then there's all the extra pressure. I got to clean the house before I'm supposed to get a package. And some of it's really cool, like the artificial intelligence to be able to figure out, patterns and help with crimes and things like that. I love that. But then there's also the kind of scary, freaky side of it that you're just a little, I don't know if it's just me, but some of it's a little scary to think about.
It is kind of scary. I mean, AI can scare people. I mean, Elon Musk loses sleep over it at night.
Yeah.
But one of the things that you got to remember, AI is nothing more than a set of rules that somebody typed in. Humans could do exactly what AI is doing if given enough time and enough labor. So all it does is it just does it faster and finds patterns that we just don't have the time to see. But AI really is, it'll never get out of control. It'll never do any harm, because it's just language that we teach it.
So it's kind of data gathering.
Yeah, it's all just being able to look at data quickly, faster than we can. I put AI on one of my websites on January because I'm really involved in that right now. I'm working with a company out of China. And in the last 3 months, we had the biggest sales record that we ever had. And the AI chatbot is responsible for increasing that revenue by 30%.
Wow.
Because it's there. It answers questions. It keeps the customers on my website, sometimes for 30 minutes, having a conversation. But it's a robot. They don't even realize it. Yeah. But they connect with me and they connect with my products. And then they start to buy.
Yeah, it's true, because I think I'm talking to Bob when I'm on the chat box, and it's probably not Bob. It's Bob the robot. Yeah,
Bob
it does, but I can see how it keeps people engaged a lot longer.
And it answers questions. If I order it today, how fast can I get it? Can I print this on a standard 8.5 by 11? Any questions that you can think of. The questions that keep customers from buying, the robot knows.
Okay, so it's interesting. I agree with you that technology is where we're going. And talk to me a little about this augmented reality.
Augmented reality, that Pokemon thing that we saw a couple of years ago.
Oh, my Lord, yes. I have friends adult friends that play this. I'm like, what? I don't know how they got these extra hours. I'm like, I don't understand what you're doing.
I considered it very Darwinian because there was a lot of people playing it that wandered out into traffic and got ran over.
Right. Well, natural selection does play out occasionally. So, well, all right. So where is it going now?
It's catching up. And that's the thing. For example, you're going through the grocery store and you can't eat a gluten product. So you take out your phone, and now it's automatically built into the phone. You don't even need a special app. And you point it at the product on the shelf, and all this information, while the camera is live, floats over the product. Tells you whether it has gluten, gives you a website, gives you a 800 number that you can call, gives you a free coupon. And then you walk down the aisle and you can do it again. Or you're in a new city, and even your own city, and you're trying to pick a restaurant.
Yep.
You just shine your camera down the street, and all the Yelp reviews show up superimposed over the actual restaurants. Pretty cool.
That is pretty. All right. So as I'm hearing all this, the part that's sticking out with me is convenience and ease. Like I'm a person where I tend to be loyal to companies and brands that I feel a connection with, that I feel I have a positive relationship with them, a positive vibe. They're usually a good cause, but that they make it easy. And a lot of this, it just sounds like it's convenience for me.
It is convenience. And yes, actually almost everybody has brand loyalty.
Right.
You'll always go for that brand, even if it's more expensive, because you learn to trust it.
Yep.
I mean, every time I travel abroad, and I travel a lot, there's hardly a trip I don't go into a McDonald's. Right. I just want to sit down and know what I'm going to get.
Know what you're getting. Yeah. For me, it's like I choose less on price and more on relationship and convenience, or how easy things are.
And this really does add convenience.
Okay.
And it's not just in the product segment. It really is everywhere. I mean, anything that you can point your phone at, it will identify and then augment that reality with additional information.
Interesting. All right. So where all this is going, because I'm a Gen Xer. I'm not a millennial. I'm not this Gen I. I didn't grow up with an iPhone. I did have a very cool bag phone when I got out of where I was working. I mean, I was out of college by this time when bag phones came out. So, some of this, I hear it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. But I'm not going to be the one coming up with all this. So this has got to present a huge opportunity for the younger generation. So, I have 3 daughters, and they're anywhere from elementary to college age. I mean, how do we get people into this? Is this kind of where the STEM movement is really coming from, just to get more people focused on this innovation?
It's no different than when the iPhone first came out. I kept my flip phone for a really long time because I didn't believe that there was anything in the iPhone that I had to have. Yep. But then I started looking at it and realizing other people were using it, and I bought one, and then I couldn't live without it. It took my wife years to believe that text messaging could be helpful. Yep. We're baby boomers, and she's like, no, if I want to talk to somebody, I got something to say, I'll call them.
Yep.
Now I can't stop her from texting.
Yeah.
So because
my dad's using emojis now in his text.
My
mom was ahead of the game. She's always been using emojis for a while, but and now he's got the ones that will explode and do congratulations and things. So we're really onto something here.
Yeah. So as the older generation, as new technology comes out and becomes common, it's a little bit of work. It's a little bit of effort for us to go back and to kind of learn it and understand why it's important, because we've lived all of our lives up until then without having it.
Right.
Where the younger generations, they don't know any different because they grow up on it.
Yeah.
But even the millennials right now are going to have difficulty in understanding AI, AR, IoT, VR. They're going to have trouble, but not as much trouble as the younger generation that it's going to be natural for them.
Right.
So it's not a movement. It's the same thing. It's just the advancement of technology, and we're all going to get exposed to it.
Yeah, I love it. So what's next for you? What do you have on the horizon? What cool things are you going to invent that you can tell us about? I love innovation. I was for the last 10 years, I was teaching the most advanced courses on digital marketing worldwide. That was just a ball. But it's run its course, and now I want to be more sophisticated. What I realized is that you could be the most advanced marketer on earth, but so is your competition. So are they. Yeah. The only thing that's going to set you aside from your competition is to be innovative, is to be creative. That's the only thing that's going to differentiate you. So I love that. That's a good point, because I feel like I always try to take classes and courses and figure out what do I do in digital marketing and how do I get ahead. But by the time I implement, I feel like everybody else in my space has already implemented. I'm not the first one to the party, if you will. So I mean,
I saw that. I was the first. Having the book out, and it was written in 2007.
Oh wow!
A lot of it was 06, so nobody even really. It wasn't even called social media when I started working on the book. So as I began teaching everything, especially the executives and executive marketing people, it got to the point where they started to understand and already have understood and knew 50% of what I was teaching. And then that's when I realized they're at a point, they don't need more tools.
Right.
What they need is creative ways to use those tools.
Totally agree. Totally agree. So how can we, as I have a small business, I have a consulting and coaching firm, I do speaking. How do people in, the entrepreneurial space, if you will, what do they need to be doing right now?
Well, the first thing, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, don't be afraid of it. I heard that, I knew it was a French word,
yep.
And somebody said it meant entrepreneur, meant French cow flop.
That's funny.
So I didn't warm up to it. But then when I finally realized I was a really bad employee, I eventually started my own company and I fell right into it and loved it. So don't be afraid of it. If you're starting out and if you have a really good idea, don't give up the vision no matter what happens. And you got to use digital marketing because you can't afford traditional. We know that.
Yep.
And even digital in most cases, Google AdWords and Facebook pay-per-click, starting to get expensive to the point where startups really can't afford it. So what you want to do is create a lot of videos, do a lot of blog posts, and oh my goodness, use as much innovation and creativity as you can. That's what's going to grab people's eyes and their attention.
Totally agree. We're going to take another short break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up our time with Lon, and we're going to come up with a challenge for you guys to make sure you can stay innovative in your own lives. So we'll be back in just a few. Hey everyone, check out my podcast, No Limits with Kristen Andre, on Tuesday nights at 7:30. We will tackle the things holding you back and the limits you set on yourself and equip you with some strategies to lead more intentional lives. Podcast launches every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on facebook.com/Andre Group. That's facebook.com/ANDREE Group. We'll see you there. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to No Limits with Kristen Andre. We are wrapping up our time with Lon Safko. And, well, first and foremost, thank you, because I don't think I've ever talked to a Pulitzer Prize nominee before. So this is very, very exciting. So it, Amazon bestseller, all this, it's like, but aside from all that, your realness in sharing that, it wasn't always this walk in the park. It wasn't like I invented this, I did this, I made up AI or voice recognition. There's a humbleness about it, which I hugely appreciate because I'm not a big ego person. But further, there's also kind of the realness of sharing your story with like, this was not a walk in the park. There were some challenges, like you mentioned, some hostile takeovers. I know you had a couple lawsuits with having to sue a couple big companies, and which is never fun because they tend to lawyer up, and you had some of your intellectual property stolen.
A lot of it.
Yeah, which is, but despite that, kudos to you on everything you've done and accomplished and continue to do. So my question for you is, with this innovation and what's coming next and the 4 things you are sharing with us, our listeners, we really try to help them push through limits. That's why we came up with the name. But we also want to make sure that, they hear your story and they take something away from it that they can implement in their own lives. So, as we close out, what do you feel like you want people to know about innovation and just really being out there and, kind of starting to disrupt some things and keep things moving? What do they need to be doing?
The most important thing is that everybody is innovative. Everybody is creative. When interviewed, 98% of grade school children said that they felt that they were creative. Less than 2% of high school kids felt that they were creative.
Really?
The same children.
From that quick? Now, I could see that in adults, but the high school surprises me a little bit.
It was absolutely amazing. Only 2% compared to 98%.
So what the heck are we doing to kids between elementary school and high school that we just I think it's the standardized test. That's what I'm going to say. One of mine is taking them this week, and it's like, it's the end of the earth. Yeah. I mean, how are we killing their creativity?
It is partially the schools, but it's also parents and pastors and rabbis and all the people that we trust. Because especially in my generation, my parents always believed the better you fit in,
Yep.
the better your life would be.
Yeah.
You don't want to stand out and cause trouble. You don't want to be a troublemaker, a disturbing influence. You want to fit in. So it's stay in line, eyes forward, no chewing gum.
Right.
And that's what employers always want. They don't want people messing up and wrecking the system and the status quo. So we're taught to not be creative, that it's not acceptable. And by the time we become young adults, it's pretty much been bred out of us. It's been taught out of us, but it's still in there. Look at you. Look at what you did. I looked at your list of podcasts this morning. I was overwhelmed with the creativity that you have. It's an honor to be here because of what you create. And your team, I'll give them some credit too.
Yeah, got to give them.
But everybody has it. How many times have you been exercising and come up with a really good idea? Or in the shower and come up with a good idea? Or you're sleeping and you wake up with a good idea? That's the creativity trying to claw its way out.
And we squash that though. I usually don't have creative ideas while I'm exercising. I'm just trying to get through. But you're right that I used to, business-wise, sometimes I would keep a tablet of paper. Like if I were in a content creation mode, I would keep a tablet of paper so I could always write down, or I'd send myself a text. But I don't know that I do that routinely. I think it's more when I'm in a mode where I've got to write something or I'm working on a project. So how can people, I share with you, we like to issue a challenge to our listeners in each episode where they can take everything that you shared with them and all your wisdom that you were gracious enough to share and kind of do something about it. So what should we challenge our listeners with around this innovation and creativity?
Okay, I'll give you the short version of what really innovation is.
Okay.
You have right and left brains. We all have it. And it's a stereotype, and for some people it's more or less than the others, and it's sometimes a mixture. So the right brain is the creativity. That's the part that looks at colors and concepts and images, and that's the right brain is creative. The left side of your brain is analytical. It balances your checkbook. It gets you to work. It watches the clock. So that's not creative, but that's what keeps you alive. And that part of your brain is engaged all the time until you sleep. As soon as you sleep and you hit REM, the left side of your brain shuts down, and the right side of your brain now can take all that information that you've been processing all day. And that's why you get all these kind of crazy dreams, because it's the right side.
Okay.
The right side is taking all this information and solving problems for you, coming up with ideas. But the moment you wake up, the left side takes over and never allows the right side to communicate those ideas, because it's too busy trying to keep you alive. So here's the challenge. And I promise, if your listeners and watchers do this, it will make them more innovative.
Okay.
Shut your radio off on the way to work. Stop it. Turn off your iTunes. Don't cover your brain with noise. When the left side of your brain is following the beat, saying the words, dun, 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 right side is shut down. If you put yourself in a quiet environment deliberately, and the best way is to and from work, you will be shocked how many great ideas have been sitting there all this time that all of a sudden start to flow. Make sure you got stickies nearby, or know how to use the recorder on your phone.
Yep.
You will pop out great ideas that have been in there for a long time.
And just start writing them down. Just not while you're driving, folks. If we're doing this on the way to work, let's voice. We can use our voice to text there and write them down.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
So you're just saying whatever idea pops into your head, just jot it down and figure out what it is. I think there's definitely some merit to that, because I know I've done that, not intentionally. I might have turned down the radio to take a phone call, or if I'm on a conference call and I'll forget to turn it back on. And you're right, I'll get great ideas. Yes. But part of my challenge has been if I don't capture them right away, then when I get back into whatever I'm doing, I guess my left brain's popping back on again.
Absolutely.
And it goes away. Yeah. So that's where writing it down. So you're advocating the Post-it notes, just have them right by you and just write anything.
I have them everywhere. I have them on my night table. I've got them on my desk. I keep them in my car, everywhere. But it's not just writing them down. You have to provide some quiet time.
Okay.
Maya Angelou called it piddling time. She would go somewhere completely quiet, and her wonderful poems would just pop out of the right side of her brain like they were already written. And that's what happens to me.
So how about that? Now, do you think everybody can do this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the cool thing, it's like playing the piano, riding a bike. The more you do it, the faster and the better it is. to the point where it happens to me so often. I have an entire file cabinet full of ideas that I can make companies out of, but I just don't have the time.
So we've got some company ideas we might be able to get Isaac. No, I think that's a great idea. It's a challenge for a lot of us to be present. We just aren't. We're running around. I know I've tried, I have a friend that teaches meditation. And he's like, oh, meditation would be fantastic for you. And I ended up coming up with like 8 grocery lists and my to-do list. Like I couldn't shut my brain off. I know. I know. But I feel like
meditation, you just mentioned it. That's great. It takes practice to separate the left brain, because the left brain says, oh, meditation, I've got 10 or 20 minutes where I can just run around like a toddler in a wet diaper.
My little left brain is like meditating, to-do lists, like it's just a mess. Right. But I think your point is it's consistency. It's not try it once and then go, nothing, I didn't get an idea. It's consistently doing that.
Because once it happens, you're going to get hooked.
The car's a good idea because most of us are in the car. I mean, I live in Atlanta. If you go 2 miles, you're in the car for an hour and a half. So I feel like,
I'm in Southern California, so yes.
Yeah, exactly. Atlanta, LA, DC, you guys have no excuses. You've got to make sure that you're taking your car.
Turn the noise off.
Exactly. All right. Well, we have a Facebook page, and it's at #NoLimitsMoment. So we'll ask all you guys, go to the Facebook page and share with us. Let us know how this works. I think it's a great idea, Lon, just to have them turn off the noise, shut down the left brain, and start jotting down what pops in your head, what those ideas are, and what you're going to do with them, more importantly. Awesome. Lon, thank you so much for being with us. You guys, check Lon out. Check out his books on Amazon. There's tons of great stuff. And if you're at the Smithsonian, you definitely go check out some of those inventions. So we thank you for being with us, and look forward to seeing your continued success and inventions. And all you guys,
awesome.
yeah, great. Thank you. Well, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Until next week, keep pushing past those limits, and we will see you soon.